Hello, and welcome to It's a Fandom Thing. I'm your host, Erin Marlowe, and each week I'm joined by a panel of guests to discuss all things fandom and pop culture, primarily from a female perspective. You'll find everything from fanfic, to cosplay, to Schitt's Creek, to Supernatural, and everything in between. So put on your favorite piece of fandom merch, set aside that fanfic that you're writing about your OTP, and sit back and enjoy this week's episode. Hello, and welcome to It's a Fandom Thing. I'm your host, Erin Marlowe, and on this episode, I'm so excited. I don't know if you listened to our Wednesday Pop Culture and Fandom News episode, but if you did, and if you didn't as well, we have the hosts from Mind the Tags podcast on with us this week, and I loved having them on our pop culture episode, and I'm so excited to have them on this one, where we're going to be discussing fanfic. So we are going to be discussing slash fanfic in particular. So let me introduce those amazing hosts of Mind the Tags, which really, people that listen to this podcast, you should be listening to that podcast as well. So first up, Emily. Hello, Emily.
Hello. Emily here, co-host of Mind the Tags. Fervent rabbit on AO3 and various other fandom places, and very excited about this topic today.
Yes, I am too. Thank you for suggesting it too, by the way. And then also your co-host, V. Hello, V.
Hello, I'm V, also known as V Against the Day or V Against, depending on which social media you're looking at.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for being on. I'm really excited to talk about this. So I do want to first talk about sort of the origins of slash fic and slash and in general what it is. And if you don't know, I'll just briefly let you know it's a genre of fan fiction that focuses on romantic or sexual relationships between characters of the same sex. And while the term slash originally referred only to stories in which male characters are involved in an explicit sexual relationship as a primary plot element, otherwise known as male slash, it is now also used to refer to any fan story containing a romantic pairing between same-sex characters. But we are going to be focusing on the MM here. So is there anything else you want to add to that, Emily, with the origins of slash?
Yeah, you covered it really well. I think one thing that folks might want to do is if they're not aware, there is a website called Fanlore, Fanlore, Fanlore. And on Fanlore, you can find all different definitions. It's like the Wikipedia of fandom. It's so great. And you can go on there and find the definitions and like the history of things too. So if you want to dig further into it, that's a good place to go. Also, as Erin mentioned, slash now encompasses a lot more than just male-male relationships, but also fem slash is its own genre too sometimes. And sometimes it like bridges sometimes it's both. So it's like it's wonky sometimes a little bit though. But V, what would you say about that? Like the fem slash, whether that's considered slash?
I think that the terminology has really shifted over time. I feel like you just don't really hear the term fem slash as much anymore. Any kind of queer relationship gets categorized as slash now. But particularly in like the late 90s and 2000s, fem slash was its very own, very specific genre.
Yeah.
Because I've also heard, and I didn't really see this in things I was looking at, but the term sapphic a lot for that instead of the fem slash.
Yeah. At least in my personal experience, fem slash was used much more than sapphic, but definitely I think readers of either would know what was meant. Yeah, and I assume it's like fandom specific too.
It's fandom specific. Yeah, I was going to say, like, you say, oh, like I love sapphic fanfic, they might say, but I think it's all slash. So
yeah.
It's like interesting. But I think fem slash was an effort to kind of like bring awareness to the fact that it's not just male. Like that there are other genders and sexes and all kinds of stuff that are incorporated in slash. So
yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like Tara and Willow was often called sapphic. Whereas like Xena Gabrielle was very fem slash.
Oh, that's interesting.
So that's what I mean. I think different fandoms use different terms around the same time.
Yeah, because I was going to say also maybe I don't know if this would have anything to do with it. One's canon and one.
Oh,
I don't know.
That's a good question too.
Could be.
Yeah. Because until quite recently, it was very rare to have a canon/ship. So
that's right.
Yeah,
that's very true.
And I think it's also worth noting that the term slash specifically came out of Star Trek and the Kirk-Spock relationship, and who are male presenting characters. And so that's why it's so associated with male-male relationships, is because it did originate from that sort of male-male pairing, which, Spock's a Vulcan, so who knows, but half Vulcan, I should say.
Emily, explain why the word slash.
Oh, yeah. This is so cool. Okay. Sorry, I totally forgot about this. It's literally the slash between the names. So if you look at fan fiction, sorry, I got so excited. It's actually not, it's it's not that cool. If you look at fan fiction, any fan fiction that is name/name means that those characters are in a romantic or sexual relationship together. And so the slash between their names is how they sort of delineated that these folks are together. And Kirk/Spock was one of the first instances of that. And so people just started referring to the slash and how that was sort of indicative of Kirk and Spock being in this relationship. So it's great to go back and revisit the Star Trek lore of it all.
And that continues today. If you're on AO3, you will see, the pairing in the tag is listed as character name/character name. And if they're just friends, It's just character name and character name.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's also a good thing to pull out when people are saying, oh, this is such a new thing. Why do people do this now? No, it's been around forever. So yeah, because people do say that, but it's not true. So Emily, why do you think slash, in particular MM, resonates with a lot of people who identify as women?
Yeah, this is such an interesting question and a great conversation to have, because I think, especially with Heated Rivalry coming out, and there's a lot of attention around why are, AFAB or folks socialized as women, are folks watching this and so interested in it. And I think it goes back to this idea of not seeing a lot of female characters that were front and center in a lot of properties, first of all. So if you think back to the great, classic TV shows and classic movies, a lot of the heroes of those things were male presenting characters. And so you really didn't have a choice if you were interested in the property. The characters that were presented to you were mostly male characters, especially the characters with a lot of depth. Until very recently, I feel like there haven't been a lot of big studio or big, TV shows with female-centric characters who are given depth and story. So I think a lot of times that's where the origin of kind of shipping these male characters are, is because that's who you had to pick from, basically. But also, I think a lot of folks who identify as women like to explore their own sexuality and their own sort of gender through having these stories, either reading stories or writing stories between male presenting characters, because we're not really allowed and given permission in society to explore our sexualities in ways that are, feel safe to us or feel comfortable to us. And so having that ability to kind of play around with these ideas from the outside and kind of using characters that you're seeing on media, I think could be really empowering for a lot of folks who identify as women. V, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you hit the main ones. The other big one that I hear a lot of people say is that in male-female relationships, there's a power imbalance that often gets expressed in ways that can make a woman reader feel uncomfortable. And so if you take away that gender dynamic, then you can explore stories that maybe don't make you feel uncomfortable because of that power dynamic. And it's sort of leveling the playing field between two people so that you can explore other aspects of romance without having to touch on the power imbalance inherent between these characters.
Yeah. And that's socialized. I mean, it's very much prescribed by society.
Right.
Which it's really nice to be able to just take that, just completely remove that element.
Yeah. And I always think about the example of the X-Files and how a lot of queer people really love the Mulder-Scully ship, even though it is a man and a woman. And I've talked about this with a bunch of people, and we think that it's partly because Mulder treats Scully as such an equal, and the show does too. that you don't really feel that power imbalance so strongly when you're shipping them. So,
yes.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Because I think, and this is more going to watching it on television, but I know for me, and we talk about the show every June, my all-time favorite show is Queer as Folk, the American version. And that show was like revolutionary at the time it came out. And I know Gail Harold, who plays, of course, Brian Kinney, said what is so remarkable about the show is you are watching, and probably why a lot of people who identified as women watched that show, which they were not expecting. They weren't writing it for that. It was just that happened. It was like the camera usually is looking at bodies through a male gaze. And while there's still the male gaze here, there's also kind of a female gaze where you are being able to watch a male body or read about a male body being looked at and talked about. And I don't want to say like used, but like in a way, like for titillation in some instances as well, where you normally would see that with a woman's body. And so I think that's part of also at least what's appealing, when Queer as Folk came about. And I know to me, a lot of the conversation around heated rivalry reminds me so much of when Queer as Folk first came out. I mean, it's like almost identical, except for, as I said, when we talked about heated rivalry, people would blush if they were to watch Queer as Folk compared to heated rivalry, quite frankly.
I know.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
It is funny.
Yeah.
It's so funny. It's like also so funny too, because like when I watched Heated Rivalry, I was like, this is not that sensual compared to like straight, explicit straight sex we might see on like Game of Thrones or whatever. But because it's queer, I think people are like, oh my goodness, it's so fascinating though. It's really like they really just show butts.
It's true.
Yeah.
Indoors.
Yeah. Anyone who has said to me they're uncomfortable watching Heated Rivalry because of the sex, I'm like, well, did you watch Game of Thrones? That's like immediately my question.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do, when I was watching it, just because, like I said, Queer as Folk's my favorite show. We cover it every year. And, watching it, I was like, this isn't like, I mean, compared to that, this is like so like nothing. I mean, Queer as Folk held like nothing back, which was part of, I think, what made it amazing, and also stirred a lot of controversy, which is also what's happened with Heated Rivalry too. So,
yeah, it does feel a little bit deja vu, the Heated Rivalry conversation. Like,
yeah,
every 2 years we have to have the same conversation again.
Yep, because it is almost identical.
Yeah,
to stuff that was being said back then.
Yeah, for sure.
It's amazing.
And stuff that was being said about Kirk and about, folks identifying as women who liked Kirk and Spock.
Yeah.
People didn't understand Kirk/Spock. People didn't really understand that. So it's like the conversation, like what's old is new. It comes up over and over. But I think a lot of people are like discovering this for the first time and are curious about it. So it's like, it's very interesting to watch it unfold.
Yeah. And so though, Emily, do you think straight cisgender readers can alienate the queer audience at all when they are consuming the fics?
Yeah, this is also something that comes up. And I think what's interesting, so when we actually dove into the readership of AO3, so AO3 is the Archive of Our Own, is the main, I would say, site for fan fiction on the interwebs. It is where most people go to read fan fiction. And I think there is an assumption that most people reading and writing male / are cisgender straight women, when in fact, it's actually mostly queer people who are reading and writing / both fem / and male / which is really interesting because I also assumed that a lot of folks reading and writing it were straight women. And there are a fair number, but the vast majority are folks of all genders. They're trans folks, cisgender, people who identify all kinds of ways who are consuming this. So I think that's something to keep in mind, that it's not only a cisgender, community of folks who are creating this content, but also I think it's worth noting that when we're writing fan fiction or we're interested in these stories, it's really about our personal exploration or personal journey. We're not sort of telling other people how to view other people or how to interact in real life. And I think that's a really good distinction, because some people, I think, absolutely do that. Some people who consume this content then actually take those viewpoints and start to ascribe them to real life people, which is not the way that we would encourage you to do. We fan fiction and slash in particular are ways for us to explore our personal sort of discoveries and personal sexual journeys that are in a way that's not threatening or like not ascribing things to actual people in real life. This is a story and a playground that we get to experience. It's not necessarily something that we want to bring real judgment to real communities. And also, we're not purporting to describe real life situations. It's, fan fiction is a multiverse of possibilities where things aren't really like real life a lot of times. So that's, I think, what I would say is it's very possible that folks who identify as queer might read some of their fan fiction or see these stories and feel alienated, and that's absolutely valid. But I think it's important for fanfic writers and readers to especially keep that in mind of like, this is fan fiction and we're keeping it in our playground and our sandbox, and that real life, we have to kind of continue to make those appropriate judgment calls.
Yeah, I think especially when you get into the like going into spaces, and like going into like particular straight women going and mainly straight white women going into gay bars and wanting to like see men make out or the whole thing about bachelorette parties and everything like that. And so I think that also can happen when people are reading a lot of the fics is they go and forget that they're actually human beings. And it's not like your playground out there where you can do whatever you want, because frankly, that is also homophobic. And so that's also like a really dangerous line there. And I think that's mainly, what I see with the criticisms of people being in this space that are not queer and, that kind of critique against it. And it's come around again, of course, because of heated rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think like basic human decency is a very important virtue here. Remembering that people are real people who are not people outside of yourself are also real. I will say, anecdotally, this is a very pure single anecdote. I went to a heated rivalry dance night on Friday for the birthday party of a cis gay man friend. And he was surprised by how many women were there, which I found interesting. And I was like, who do you think the audience for this show is? But anyway, B, I asked him at one point because they were showing sexy parts from the show on a big screen. And all these women were like screaming and cheering for it. And I said to my friend, like, do you feel like, does this feel weird to you or like people objectifying you? And he's like, no, it's hot. And I was like, great. Love it.
Great.
So my single sample size of one did not feel objectified by this behavior.
Yeah. And then that also, though, speaks to it's not like, just one person will have that reaction, because there's been a lot of like TikToks of people talking about how they have been, there was supposedly, allegedly like a viewing party held where
I saw that.
Women wouldn't let a gay man be at the viewing party, which is like, wild. That's like
wild.
Yeah, again, it's like, basic decency, respecting other people. If you can't do that, you're probably not going to be good at being a fan of something.
Yeah. I think also it's like, it's interesting to see this playing out in pop culture and culture. Fan fiction for a lot of times, and for me, especially as a slash fan fiction writer, was very much like an anonymous thing. Like I wasn't out at viewing parties for like reading parties for fan fiction, like, running around. It was very much, I wrote a fan fiction, I posted on AO3 and some people commented on it. Yay. And so it was, you sort of felt insular in that way. And so I think the criticism of like, oh, well, you're not depicting, or, how are you depicting these relationships and things? It is, when you're writing fiction, you're taking liberties that of course don't apply to real life a lot of times. And so I think most fan fiction readers and writers kind of know, like, I'm reading a story that somebody wrote versus let me apply that, let me like copy and paste this onto real people that I'm dealing with on the, and if they are doing that, that's an issue that frankly is like a larger concern than just sort of objectifying or fetishizing communities. So I think fan fiction is an interesting petri dish of how you want to play around and explore sexuality in a place that feels sort of safe and like among community where you don't have to go and again, go to a giant viewing party to get that experience,
Yeah. And it can be anonymous too. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're more comfortable that way, yeah, it can be a safe environment. Definitely, I think. Depending. But yeah, I think it's a pretty safe environment. Okay, well, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to talk about people who write /. So we'll be right back. I don't know about you, but I like keeping my money where I can see it. Unfortunately, traditional, quote, big wireless carriers also seem to like keeping my money too. After years of overpaying for wireless, I finally got fed up with crazy high wireless bills, bogus fees, and those, quote, free perks that actually cost more in the long run, and switched to Mint Mobile. With premium wireless plans starting at just $15 a month, you could be saving so much money. Since I switched, I'm saving over half of what I used to pay. With those other carriers, I was never sure if I was going to have that 5G coverage, because sometimes I'd be in the middle of watching something, I'd lose connection, I'd walk a block away, and all of a sudden, 5G network, poof, gone. But since switching to Mint Mobile, I no longer have to worry about that, because all plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. So stop overpaying for wireless just because that's how it's always been. Mint exists purely to fix that. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. Bring your own phone and number. You can activate with eSIM in minutes and start saving immediately. No long-term contracts, no hassle. So ditch overpriced wireless and get 3 months of premium wireless service from Mint Mobile for $15 a month. I use this and you should too. If you like your money, Mint Mobile is for you. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/fandom. That's mintmobile.com/fandom. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month, 5GB plan required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra? See Mint Mobile for details. Okay, so let's turn it to the writers, to the fanfic writers. So, Emily, what do you think is essential for writers of /fic, in particular /fic, to remember when writing?
As a /fic writer, I would say, have fun. But also, that's like literally the most important thing to remember, folks.
Yeah.
Have whimsy in your heart. Have whimsy in your heart. So here's the thing about writing /fic too, is like when I was starting to write fan fiction as a teenager, I was like kind of writing it and almost like felt ashamed. I was like, oh, I don't know why I'm writing this. I'm just really interested and I just really want to write this. And I had this like societal feeling of shame that kind of like accompanied me along my fan fiction journey. And I think it's really important to remember like fan fiction and writing stories is like creative exercise and you should not feel shame for wanting to explore things in a written style that are interesting to you. And so I remember also back in the day, like starting to tell friends that I wrote fan fiction and being like, I'd be like, guys, I write fan fiction. And they were very accepting, but I was scared. I was scared at first because I felt like it was going to be this judgmental thing. And I think part of what is wonderful about fan fiction is that we can talk about stuff that society tells us you're not really supposed to talk about or think about, or you're naughty for talking about or thinking about. And that's a great thing to have. But also don't feel ashamed. And you don't have to obviously tell people you write it, but you know what? You can, and it's fine. and honestly, we should be proud of it. So
yeah, I agree. Sophie?
Yeah, I think for me personally, writing fanfic and particularly starting out writing /, though I've since branched out into a diversity of genders and situations, really helped me explore my sexuality and explore my gender identity in a way that I don't think I had another outlet for at that age. It was like really opening up a world of possibility to me, a person who went to Catholic high school and, did not have any like openly queer adults in my life. So I would say if there's something that intrigues you about writing this, maybe think about why, like pull on that string if that feels good to you, and you might learn something about yourself. So otherwise, I think Emily covered it pretty well. Yeah, have whimsy in your heart for sure.
Have fun.
Yeah, I think the have fun part is really, really good, and to try not to feel shame about it, because there's no shame in writing it. And I do think there is that stigma that still is out there where some people think fanfic is just that it's only smut and that it's just people writing just that and that it's not well written, when some of the best writers in the world are fanfic writers. So I've read some fanfic that's better than novels I've read. So yeah,
absolutely.
For sure.
But also don't let your skill level hold you back if you want to try it. Yeah.
Yes. That's a great point.
Yeah. And another great point about that is we actually talked to a friend who English is their second language. And they said they learned English the most by reading and writing fan fiction. It was the number one way for them that they improved their literal, secondary language acquisition. But also for people who want to develop their writing skills more, having that playground of just being able to put things out there and have people comment can be really powerful. But literally, I was so shocked when that person told us that they literally learned English by reading fan fiction. I was like, the power of it! The power of it! Incredible.
I love that though. That's really cool because
yeah.
Because I don't know if a lot of people really would even think that. Because again, it's because there's still that stigma against fanfic that I think has kind of had its ebbs and flows, kind of where the stigma will go away for a little bit and then it comes back. And so don't be ashamed at all of it. But if you want to stay private, that's also fine. But, if you want to share your writing or have people you do that, it's a great creative outlet. It's a great way to discover stuff about yourself. It's a great therapeutic tool, I think, too. So, yeah.
And what's interesting, I know we've mentioned heated rivalry a couple of times. And one of the things that I've seen about that show is oh, well, there's so much sex in it. There's so much, it's so sexy. And I'm like, I think actually it's really great that there is not, and I actually don't think sex is really central to it as much as people think, but I think sex should be celebrated. If sex is a part of human experience that while not everybody has it or wants to have it, that's fine. It's something that should be celebrated and talked about. I think, especially in America, it's still so locked down. We can't talk about this. We shouldn't talk about it in any way. And I think fan fiction writers, if we write smut, it's also just celebrating a human thing that happens with humans, and it can be a really integral part of a story, just like it is in heated rivalry. And I think people are starting to see that of oh, sex is just a thing that happened.
And it's character development.
Yeah. It's character development. Yeah. We don't have to be so scandalized by any mention of it,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've read some that are just, porn without plot, the tags will say, that are so well written that they're just it's amazing.
Yeah.
You can revisit them over and over again. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I revisit these PWPs. I have them bookmarked. They're my little bedtime stories, folks. I'm real into it.
Gotta fall asleep reading a nice fic.
Yeah. Or not fall asleep and stay up way too late.
Well,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's that
screen
too.
reflecting in my eyeballs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know a lot of people that are queer do write fanfic as well, but there are a lot of writers that are also straight cisgender women. So do you think there's anything that those writers do or have done or could do that would alienate or push out queer writers? Emily?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's a good distinction to be mindful of the fact that when you write fan fiction, especially for a cisgender straight woman who writes fan fiction, to tag appropriately. So that's one of the great things about AO3 is that you can tag everything to make sure that if things are triggering for folks, that's upfront. But also, I think, one of the things that's helpful to keep in mind as a writer is that you, again, are playing in a sandbox of characters. You don't want to assume that folks in the real world want the same things as these characters or will behave in the same way as these characters. And I think that's like the number one consideration. I think when people start to get into situations where they, might make assumptions about people based on things they're writing or reading, that's when you really get into a tricky territory. So as a writer myself, fan fiction, I just sort of know that like these characters are my little blorbos. And blorbo, by the way, is just a term that means like a little a character you like. And that's just a fandom, term. But my blorbos are on the page. They're for me to like have fun and play and for readers to have fun. But again, in real life, I need to hold true to how other folks want to be treated and respected. And that's a very clear distinction that as a writer, I try to make. Yeah, I don't know. Fee, what else?
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly think of scenarios where there could be gatekeeping or something like that. It's not something I've ever witnessed or experienced, but I'm sure that it does happen. But like the way that the world of fanfic works is such that you can really choose your experience. And really, if something is not feeling good for you, you can just leave it behind. And, you could just close the window. And so I think that the communities that we build inside of our fandoms protect us a little bit from that kind of thing. I will say that there's been a lot of discussion around the fact that many of the fics, which are going through the process of having the serial numbers filed off to become actually published novels, have been about straight ships. And there's a very recent Harry Potter one that is actually a queer ship, and it is the fic that has the most hits on AO3 of any fic. And yet a lot of people saw straight ship fics that had like maybe half of that readership get published for years before this queer one. And so, that's a little bit of a problem with market bias rather than what's actually happening in fanfic.
What's also interesting is like, for the most part, you can assume the identity or gender of the writer of a fanfic.
Yeah.
And I'm a fervent rabbit on AO3, and for all folks now, I'm a real rabbit. Okay. And there's nothing to tell you I'm not. There's nothing to tell you I'm not. But for the most part, you really don't know. And actually it's only in recent years where we started to get on Discord and started to really connect with each other at like in the age of the internet, really, where we start to meet each other. And I would say like in our fandom, mine and V's fandom of Our Flag Means Death, like the vast, vast, vast majority of folks in our fandom are queer. And so it's a great reminder to think of like, okay, I might assume that a straight woman is writing or reading this fic, but in reality, it might be like folks who, are, who knows how they identify, and you might never know, and that's okay too. So I think it's like just kind of keeping in mind that there are so many different types of people and kinds of people and ages and ranges and sexes and genders and all kinds of things that write fanfic. And I think that's what's really great about it is you really get this like diverse experience without really having to pigeonhole folks into certain things.
Yeah. The final thing I wanted to say is that the canon of great Western literature has done a lot worse for depicting queer people than any fanfic writer I've ever seen. So,
and that's a fact.
That's a really, really good point. Well, before we cue to the next break and then do our fun little talking about some of our favorite fics, I did want to know, is there anything else you think is important to add when it comes to /fic?
I think it's important to remember that this is like a hobby that we're doing for fun, not to take it too seriously.
It's out of the goodness of our hearts.
Yeah.
And, I'm absolutely self-interested too, because I'm like, if I write fic, maybe other people are going to write fic that I can read. Nom, nom, nom. It's all cake to me. I'm just always really excited when people are like, I wrote my first fanfic and here it is. And it's just so fun to be able to see human beings like connecting with storytelling and with each other in this way and having a platform to do it in a very easy, accessible way. So not having to be published or not having to submit your writing somewhere. It's literally you on AO3, you write your fic and you post it. And that's how easy it is. So it's you have such like a depth of people. And that's just a thing that I think is true of any fic, but certainly for slash fic, I think you have a lot of different experiences coming to bear in there. It's really fun to read.
Yeah, and I think this just hit me, but I think in that world, and this is kind of going back to a little bit of what you said, V, but in that world of fanfic, you will find more diversity, more representation than you are going to find on the small screen or the big screen for the most part. So I think that's another reason why it's a nice place to be, because if you're looking for something, I guarantee you could probably find it there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can find it. And not only that, but yours truly has written some stuff that you would be shocked to see. In fact, I have written a fic that I would say it goes beyond any kind of genre. I wrote like mascot fic where two mascots were having an intimate time, and I'm proud of it, folks. Okay. So you can anything on AO3, anything you could imagine.
And to touch on your point, Erin, a lot of MM fic comes from a desire to see relationships that are not normally depicted in popular media.
Yeah. And especially not depicted well, like was said.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also it can be like, if you have any kinks or anything like that, there's not a lot of kink shaming going on there. So, yeah.
I should hope not. You don't have to bury your gaze in your fan fiction.
Yeah, that too.
It's a great time.
Yeah, and I have spoken to people that they've read certain fics and it's awakened something in them, like made them realize something about themselves. So I think that's another reason. And I know you spoke about that with writing it as well, but there's so much to explore with it. Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I just want to know some of Emily and V's favorite slash fics. So I can't wait to hear, because they would be some recommendations for me and, of course, all of you out there. Okay, so we're back. So, Emily, I know people hate when I make them narrow it down to 3 because people are always seriously,
so hard,
you're doing this. But I do it with so many things and people get so angry. But I still do it. So what are 3 of your favorite MM slash fics?
Oh my gosh. Wild. So the first bookmark I have on AO3 has to be the one that I mentioned. It is called A Great and Gruesome Height. It is a fic that takes place in the Hannibal fandom. So I wrote for the Hannibal fandom for a long time, and it's a Will/Hannibal fic. And it is, I've actually reread it many, many times. It's about 115,000 words. It just is so well written. And what I love the most about fan fiction that I love is it takes these characters that I already deeply care about, and it adds such depth to them. And I'm yes, it's hot. They have they kiss and stuff, but it gives me such an extension of the story. And so this fic is the plot is great. The character development is great. They have meaningful conversations. It is just so good. And so I love that fic so much. It's my first bookmark on AO3, so I always have to mention that. And then I also, I became a Kirk Spock shipper by way of the 2009 movie with the best Chris Pine. And I actually then started going back and revisiting the original series of Star Trek. And I really love older Kirk Spock fics from the 70s and 80s. I just find them to be really compelling. I also just love revisiting fic from that era. It's just, I don't know, it's something about it. So an author called Killa Bees is a Kirk Spock writer who I really like. And I can't really pick one of her fics. I just really enjoy all of them. And we had the privilege of interviewing her on the podcast a couple of years ago now. And I love that so much. And then my other favorite fic is by V. I would say, I'm just going to shout out V because I love V's work. V is an incredible writer. V wrote a fic about Edward Teach and Stede Bonnet playing a kissing game on the pirate ship, The Revenge. And I love it so much. And I love going back to that fic, man. It's so good.
Thank you.
There's fan art for it now. Mm-hmm. It's so good.
But yeah.
Those are my 3, I would say.
Aw, Emily. That's very sweet.
Aw. Great shout out. So V, what are 3 of yours?
Yeah, so narrowing it down to 3, obviously very difficult. So the first one is a fic. Funnily enough, the author is called the Brothers Winchester. But this fic is not available on AO3. I just have it as a PDF, which was like passed around. And it's called Tell Me About the Big Bang. And it is Poe Dameron and Finn from the Star Wars sequels. And it's just like, this person is a beautiful writer. It's one of those fics where you're like, this should be a novel. You know, this person is an incredible writer. So yeah, Tell Me About the Big Bang. If anyone wants to read it, you can ask me. I can share the PDF with you. And then the next one, I was trying to get a really wide spread for this question. The next one is called A Game of Gods, and the author is Paper Iuni. And my favorite novel is Mason and Dixon by Thomas Pynchon, and it's about the two men who surveyed the Mason-Dixon line before America was a country. And it's a very like magical realist novel, and it follows them through their whole lives. They were both astronomers by trade from England, who surveying this line was just like part of a job for them. And someone wrote a fic about them because in the book, it sort of touches on they could have had a romantic relationship, but when both of them were thinking of it was at different times. And so this little fic is very short. It's only 1,200 words, but it says, what if they thought of it at the same time? Which is a great question that fanfic can answer. And then the third one that I wanted to talk about is by a mutual friend of Emily and I, whose screen name is Shield Maiden of Mithril Hall. And this fic is called Pete and Prejudice. And it is such a cute fic. The main ship in it is from Our Flag Means Death. It's two characters named Lucius and Pete. And then there's a bunch of other background characters. And Pete is like a really tough guy who actually has like a very soft and tender heart. And in this fic, he is secretly a Jane Austen fan. And that's the plot. Yeah, those are my three.
Did you know that I baited that fic, V?
I didn't know that. That's delightful. I love it.
Yeah.
Great job, beta.
For those who don't know, beta readers are basically like if you have another person read your fic before you post it to like edit it or provide feedback. Shield Maiden and Mithril Hall came to me and said, would you beta this fic for me? And I was like, will I? I was like, yeah, man. It was the best experience. I had loved reading in that fic. It was so fun. Most of the times my beta is me betaing fics is just commenting with like a bunch of exclamation points, like, or just screaming. I'm like, I'm screaming, so that was so fun. I love that fic so much.
Yeah. And those were I knew the topic was MM/, so I did not choose any fem/, but if anyone wants those recommendations, I also have those for you.
You can go ahead and provide some of those. We've got some time.
Oh, I have to pull them up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry. I just mean I have them in my bookmark.
I can read some of mine and then give you some time if you want to pull those.
Oh, sure. Yeah, go for it.
So this first one, everybody's probably sick and tired of me recommending this fanfic, but I've recommended it 100 times. All of these are going to be Destiel fanfics. So Emily.
Oh, thank God. Thank God. Oh my God.
So the first one, of course, this is my absolute favorite fanfic, hands down. And it's called The Kinks by Ash and Cass. And this is a BDSM fanfic. And like the premise is like totally not accurate for the world, but I think the writing is very accurate for BDSM. And the premise is it's an AU, and Dean actually lives in Colorado in this. And Dean and Cass are part of a program that like matches doms and subs, and who've never met, and for a week away together to play. And Dean requested a woman, and instead Cass shows up. So it's also about about Dean coming to terms with his sexuality. And it's one of those kind of like mistaken identity. And so then Dean's like, well, why don't you just stay and we'll just play? And so it's very, very explicit. If you do not like BDSM, you do not want to read this because it's not for you at all. I mean, it's very, very explicit, but it's also really sweet. And it's one of the few times where Dean is the dom and Cass is a sub. Whenever you read BDSM fics that involve those two, 99% of the time, Cass is dominant and Dean is submissive. So I like the fact that that's a little bit different. So that's one for you, Emily, if you're into that.
Exciting.
And I really think Palomino Pup, who writes a lot of AU for Destiel, I think most of their fics are good, but the one I'm going to recommend is Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy. So it's basically Dean runs a horse ranch, the Winchester Farms, and Cass is a writer, and he writes supernatural themed romance novels. And he shows up and rents the place. They hate each other at first, and then they fall in love. There's tons of a lot of Destiel fics, I want to say, most of the time start like that, where it's like they hate each other, and then now they love each other. So, yeah.
You can see me frothing at the mouth, so, yeah. Enemies to lovers, enemies to lovers. We love to see it.
And then lastly, I will recommend, and this one will sound like incredibly heavier than it is. And once again, read the tags for this as well. Another one called Ripped at the Seams by Zation. That's Zation. And this one is another AU with Destiel. And it's basically the premise is when Lisa and Dean break up. So you know who Lisa is. I was like, wait, have you met Lisa? Yeah. Not surprisingly, he doesn't handle the situation very well and ends up kind of accidentally hiring a prostitute, and that is Cass. So it sounds heavier. There's drug abuse. It sounds really heavy, but it's actually lighter than the title and the subject matter. And I love that one. I mean, I have tons of other ones, but I think those are three of my favorites, but especially the kinks. I've read that one so many times, and I think the writer did so much research about BDSM, and that's what makes it really good, and handles sub drops and even dom drops. And if you're in the community, you know what I'm talking about really well. But once again, if you're not into that stuff, you are not going to want to read that fic at all. You're going to want to avoid it. So yeah, those are my recommendations. So V, did you find?
Ready.
Okay.
I've got 3 lady on lady ones. So, okay. Yeah. My original ship, most important ship of my youth, was Xena Gabrielle. And there is a super popular, it might be the most popular fic on AO3 that is for this pairing, but it's so good. It's called Lover's Celebration by Vegas Goddess. And it's Xena and Gabrielle, and they're at a party, and they have a great time as a result of going to the party.
They have a great time.
It is very plot, but it's great. The next one that I want to recommend is called Oh Go On Baby Hurt Me Tonight by Tragically Nerdy. And
yes,
it is 3 woman characters and then 1 non-binary character from Our Flag Means Death. And they are also just having a great time. It's from a Kinktober challenge. And the description is Jim gets gangbanged by hot older women, the fic.
Love it. You can't ask for more.
Yeah, that's a great one. And finally, I wanted to recommend a whole series by a very good fandom friend of mine who I became friends with because I came into her DMs screaming about how good her fic was, which is the writer whose name is Chocolate Pot. And she has a series called Sweet Damsels, which is gender-swapped versions of the Our Flag Means Death characters. So those are my recommendations.
Love Chocolate Pot.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Emily, and great recommendations that I'm sure people are going to write down. Okay, well, I don't know if you both played, but it is time now to turn to 6 Degrees of Finn Whitrock. So since you're new here, this is an added thing we added a few years ago because Finn Whitrock is kind of our unofficial, Vice mascot. So if anything, if we find anything out about you, Christian fucking Bale, that we end up going, you can't be our mascot anymore, that's when Finn Whitrock steps in.
He's like when someone wins Miss America and it's like there's runner up and they take the duties if the winner can't do it.
That's exactly what he is. And so it kind of started this out as this thing. We even have It's a Fandom merch in our Redbubble store. And it kind of started, we were watching it all started with season 10 of American Horror Story. And that started this whole thing with me and my podcast brain twin Jen from my streaming bubble. And we ended up becoming like really, really into Finn Whitrock. And then we were watching a bunch of stuff. And then a couple of other people joined in and we became the Finn crew. And every October for his birthday, we do Finn Whitrock trivia. And it's our most unhinged night of trivia because I run the trivia board and I always mess up. But it's fun.
Oh my God. This is incredible.
We love you, Finn. Even though half the people that play this are like, I have no idea who this person is. But Emily, did you play?
Okay, wait. I'm doing it right now. I'm trying to look it up because you have to go on this website. And it's supposed to go to me?
Oh,
me, myself?
No, to a fandom, right?
No, to a fandom.
Yeah.
Like, it's like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon kind of game where you can connect Kevin Bacon.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, I don't know how I'm related. I know how I'm related to Kevin Bacon, but not. Okay, so Finn Whitrock. Finn Whitrock was in, oh my God, so many things.
Yeah.
So American Horror Story. Okay, American Horror. You go first, V, because I have to figure this out.
Do you have one, V?
I mean, I think that I can get there pretty quickly, which is, so he was in Torchwood Miracle Day. And
Torchwood, my beloved.
Okay, so Bern Gorman was in Torchwood. He's Owen. He was in Pacific Rim, and then Pacific Rim had Charlie Day in it, who is on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, who also has Rob McElhenney on it. And I learned today that Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds own a soccer team in England together, which has become very successful. I just learned this. And when we're at Ryan Reynolds, then we can go to Free Guy, which has Taika Waititi, and then we can get to Our Flag and Stuff. The end.
There you go.
The end. That was great. And you did a Finn thing that we have never used ever in this podcast.
Oh,
no, I don't think
Torchwood.
I don't think it's ever been used.
Torchwood, our fave. Oh my God. It's such a stupid show, folks, but it's so good.
It's so good and it's so bad. I'm glad to be breaking new ground in Finn Whitrock studies.
Torchwood is the gate to everything because you could say, because like most of the people in Torchwood were in Doctor Who at one point because they crossed over a lot. So you have like Finn Whitrock, who is in a Torchwood vehicle. Then you have, what's his name? John Barrowman, who was in Torchwood, famously chaotic bisexual energy. He was in Doctor Who. And then who played the Doctor? He's the most recent Doctor, sorry. Oh my gosh.
Oh, Nick Kudigatwa?
Yeah, okay, so I don't, all right. Yeah, but who also? David Tennant. What did David Tennant do?
Like 2 or 3 things.
I have to figure this out. I have to figure the Doctor Who connect. Yeah, a couple of things. Yeah, David Tennant did a couple of things. I'll just say, I'm going to connect it to The Favorite, which is one of my favorite movies. Okay. So David Tennant was in Broadchurch with Olivia Colman, and Olivia Colman was in The Favorite, which is one of my favorite movies.
Great choice.
And I love it so much. I wouldn't say I'm in like the fandom per se, but I really enjoy that movie. So we can relate him to that.
There you go.
But Torchwood is the link. Yeah, for sure.
If you ever wanted to do a one-step, also in Favorite, of course, is Emma Stone. Emma Stone was, of course, in La La Land, with Finn Whitrock is in La La Land for a very, very brief moment.
There we go. There we go.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah, it's actually amazing how you can connect Finn Whitrock to like almost anybody in like 2 steps. Really, it's
wow.
He has a very diverse filmography, is what I've learned from his Wikipedia page.
Yeah, and I try to like get people. I mean, I break the rule all the time. Get people to not use Ryan Murphy stuff when doing this because that's the easiest way to do it. but I always am like, let's try and branch out beyond American Horror Story or American Crime Story or any of the Ryan Murphy stuff. You know, I watch Ryan Murphy stuff and I really shouldn't watch Ryan Murphy stuff. I have my own issues with that person.
I don't know a lot about him.
Who doesn't?
So now I'm going to have to look this guy up.
It's wild, V. It's wild.
Really?
It's
Okay.
wild stuff.
We covered Nip Tuck on here like 4 years ago or something.
Oh.
And it was my first time rewatching it, you know, and that's a Ryan Murphy show.
I did not realize that was a Ryan Murphy show. Okay.
Yeah, and I hadn't watched that since it ended. And it was the most miserable to this day, horrible, awful experience for prepping for this podcast. Fergie was really into it. Fergie the dog was very into it, especially when they were doing the plastic surgery. She was like lasered in.
That's so funny.
But it's like, it's such a transphobic, homophobic. It's everything you can. It's awful. That show is horrible. And I still think he signed on to be part of Pose to try and make up for the transphobia in there. And it's just...
We can have a redemption. Yeah.
Yeah, but...
No, we can't. Not for Ryan Murphy.
Right,
yeah, he's like...
because, it gets into a whole thing.
His whole, like, true crime stuff that he does. And he's just... He just pisses me off.
We love it. We love it. We love to be pissed off. Yeah. We really do.
But, I mean...
But no, that's...
He somehow gets... People just love working with him. I don't know. So either he has a lot of blackmail material or he's just...
He's very charismatic, maybe.
Yeah. But I'll just quickly use one of mine that I love to use only because it mentions soap operas, because I am actually a soap person. I've been watching Days of Our Lives pretty much forever. I still watch Days of Our Lives, as people out there know. I've been a fan of Jensen Ackles since he was on Days of Our Lives.
Yeah.
So that's how long I've been a fan. And so Jensen Ackles, of course, was on Days of Our Lives as Eric Brady, and Finn Wittrock, and a lot of those, you know, actors go to other soaps too. And Finn Wittrock got his start on All My Children. So,
oh my God.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wait, is Days of Our Lives still on?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, it's on Peacock now. Mm-hmm.
The years of our lives, more like.
Yeah. One of my very best friends from childhood was obsessed with Jensen Ackles on Days of Our Lives when we were like 12 years old. So, and then like many years later, I've realized he was also the supernatural guy. And I was like, oh my God, did you know this connection? And she's like, yeah, obviously I knew this connection.
Yeah, well, and it's because Deidre Hall, who plays Marlena Evans, she's one of the queens of daytime. And she actually is who we have to thank for the fact that Jensen Ackles was in Supernatural and has the career he has, because he was going to sign a like 5-year contract or something, which is like huge. And she said to him, you are so much better than this show. You need to branch out and do other things. You're an amazing actor. Go do other stuff. And so he didn't sign that contract, which was like unheard of. And then that's why we have, So we have her to thank.
That's why I'm suffering to this day.
That's why
you're saying, Erin. That's why I'm suffering right now. Okay.
Blame it on Deidre Hall. Well, thank you, Emily and V, for joining me. This was a ton of fun, and I hope you had as much fun as I did. Mm-hmm. And I would love to have both of you back sometime.
Oh, thank you.
So we'll go ahead and close out and have you say where your podcast, Mind the Tags, can be found, a little bit about that. And since I had Emily do that, the last one, I'm going to have you do that, V. So
great. Well, our podcast, Mind the Tags, is available wherever you get podcasts. And we also have a Patreon, and we also have an Instagram, which Emily is taking the reins over and doing a great job. You can see her react to Supernatural in real time as she makes this journey.
Wild.
Yeah.
I'm in the pit.
Yep.
It's literally saved on our stories on Instagram, and the highlight is called In the Pit. That's where I am.
But not the show, The Pit.
Right. We really do need to clarify. This is Pit with one T.
Which we do need to clarify.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, anything else either of you want to promote or give out? No.
Just positive energy to the world.
I think
Yeah.
Write fanfic, folks.
Yeah.
Write fanfic.
It helps.
Yeah, it does. Well, Fergie never reads fanfic. And a lot of that stuff, she's too young to read it. Although she watches, people getting slaughtered. So Fergie the dog, you can follow her on TikTok at Schroeder and Fergs. That's SCHROEDERANDFERGS. It's long, but it's worth it. To find links to all our past episodes, including past episodes we have done on fanfic, head on over to our website. It's a fandomthingpod.com. And while you're there, consider becoming a Patreon supporter today. For as little as $3 a month, you get episodes a day early, you get ad-free content, you get bonus episodes. Like, it will be out, hopefully, by the time this drops. Carla and I, of course, because it's Christian fucking Bale, we did a bonus episode talking about The Bride. And we had a really good conversation. I think Christian, of course, quote unquote, Christian makes an appearance, and it's a great appearance. So become a Patreon supporter today, and you can get that and lots of other great bonus content as well. Link is in the show notes, or click the Support Us tab on our website. It's a fandomthingpod.com. And also on that Support Us tab, you can find our Redbubble store. And we have, like I said, It's a Fandom thing. We also have It's a Fanfic thing. We also have It's a Dean thing. We also have It's a Destiel thing. So yeah, those fit in with what we've been talking about. There's other stuff there too, but like It's a Snail thing, which neither one of you know about this, but It's a Snail thing is in reference to the movie Deep Water that Finn Wittrock was in, that we call the snail propaganda movie. So that's why we have It's a Snail thing in there. So we hate that movie.
Well, that's funny.
I'm intrigued.
That's funny because in our fandom,
yeah.
Well, in our fandom also, our two main blorbos in our fandom, someone transformed them into snails as fan art one time, and now snails are deeply a part of our fandom as well. So just so
whoa, that's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that could have been our connection to Finn Wittrock.
That's right.
So once again, that's It's a fandomthingpod.com. And next week, Sarah will be joining me. We were going to talk about Train Spotting, but annoyingly, even though it's celebrating an anniversary, you cannot find that movie anywhere unless you own it. It's so annoying. You can find the sequel, but you can't watch the original.
Sucks.
I know. And so we were going to be covering it as, because it is Gen X/Millennial Movie Month in April, and we can't cover it. So instead, Sarah and I are just going to be sharing some Gen X movies that shaped us. So that'll be a fun conversation. And then we are still going to be talking about My Girl. So that'll be another one that'll be coming up soon, too. So until next time, remember, it's a fandom thing. Black Lives Matter, Stop Asian Hate, and Free Palestine.
If you've ever run a business with a bloated CRM, you know how painful it is. Digging through useless menus and features while deals slip through the cracks. It's time to switch to a new CRM. That's where Pipedrive comes in. An easy-to-use, intelligent CRM loved by growing sales teams. Pipedrive unites everything on one visual pipeline that shows every deal, what stage it's in, and what needs to happen next. It's so intuitive, your team can jump in and use it from day one. Pipedrive keeps everyone aligned, on task, and moving toward the close. It's powerful enough to grow with your business, but simple enough that your team will actually love using it. Switch to a CRM built by salespeople for salespeople and join the over 100,000 companies already using Pipedrive. Head to pipedrive.com/audio for a 30-day free trial with no credit card or payment required. That's pipedrive.com/audio.